So, I'm probably a little bit late to the party on this one, but the Alaska in the past update, the September 2021 update, did receive a buff. Hello, I am Xarkun, and this is World of Warships Legends. Before we start talking about the Alaska and its buff, I should note that today is Friday. And the reason you're seeing this video on Friday rather than a stream is because I can't stream today due to my work schedule. In fact, I don't know if I will be able to stream at all this weekend. I just don't think I'm going to have time. And that is an unfortunate thing. I know I have missed a couple Fridays recently due to my job, but frankly, that's just the way it has to go sometimes. I've got bills to pay, you know, and as much as I would like the YouTube revenue to cover those bills, it simply doesn't. So I've got to go do the job stuff before I can do any of this stuff. That being said, I will make it up to you guys either by streaming sometime this weekend if I can find the time, or if not, then I will stream on Monday or Tuesday, and then next week, Friday. My schedule for work is all in order so that we should be able to resume our usual streaming programming at that time. In any case, the Alaska buff. Well, that Yamato out there, we hit him for 13.6k just now, and we're going to get a lot of juicy salvos in this game. What did the buff to the Alaska actually do, though? According to the patch notes for the September 2021 update, the radius of maximum dispersion for the main guns was decreased by 10%, aka the guns got more accurate. And I think, well, it certainly feels like they're more accurate. There's another juicy hit, this time against an enemy Alaska, and it results in a Citadel. Speaking of citadeling things, the penetration of the Alaska's armor-piercing shells was increased by 5%, and then finally the repair party reload time was decreased from 60 seconds to 50 seconds, and the HP regeneration per second was increased by 33%. So, survivability on the Alaska got buffed in the sense that the repair party was buffed, and then basically the accuracy and punching power of these guns was buffed. The result? Well, let's just say that this was the very first game I played in the Alaska after the buff, and I do not remember it being this accurate or hitting this hard. In fact, when I got the Stalingrad to test it, I sort of felt like the Stalingrad was doing the things that I thought the Alaska should be doing, and frankly, the Alaska, in my mind, did not. Its guns were not as accurate as the Stalingrads, and they did not seem to share the ridiculous amount of punching power. That, however, has all changed. And now I think the Alaska and the Stalingrad are about as comparable as they could be in terms of their armor-piercing performance. And that, I think, frankly, is a good thing. But I suppose saying that it's a good thing that the Alaska feels so much more powerful is a matter of perspective and opinion. There are some out there right now saying that the Alaska is, quote, overtuned, which I think might be a polite euphemism for overpowered, and maybe it is, but just speaking from personal experience, the Alaska was never really a ship that I enjoyed playing prior to this buff, and that has to do mostly with the fact that its guns were a little bit wonky in their accuracy. They weren't like pinpoint accurate. They felt kind of like battleship RNG, you know what I mean? And then if they did hit, they didn't always seem to have the punching power that I thought they should. Now these guns feel quite accurate. They feel like cruiser accurate, super cruiser accurate, and I think that is how they should have felt to begin with. And maybe they do feel that way on the PC version of this game. By the way, there's a Shimakaze smoked up in front of us, and we were able to radar him, switch to HE, and take him out. That is something you want to avoid doing in your destroyers, is smoking up right in front of a radar cruiser inside of a cap and sitting stationary there, and basically allow that radar cruiser to kill you. Now the enemy team has no destroyer left, and that is going to be key for our team's chances of winning this game as it continues, particularly because we are going to screw up pretty badly coming up here soon, and our screw up could have, if we hadn't killed that Shimakaze, resulted in our throwing the game. But we'll get there when we get there. What was I saying about the Alaska being, quote, overtuned or overpowered? Maybe it is, but I didn't like playing the Alaska before the buff. Now I think with the guns being as hard-hitting and, frankly, consistently reliable as they are now I think the ship is much more fun to play, and, frankly, I really hope that they don't reverse this buff and nerf it. Now, if they are going to do that, I think it would be appropriate to take away the buff to the AP penetration. They increased it by 5%, but I do hope they keep this newfound accuracy. Frankly, it just makes the ship much better to play, and it's not like if a battleship is bow on to you, this new accuracy and punching power is going to let you drive right through his bow armor and citadel him. He can still angle against you, and there's still counterplay available to him, so whether this thing is overtuned or overpowered, I mean, I don't think it matters. I think it's actually in a good state right now, and maybe I'm in the minority on that, and of course this opinion isn't really based on any kind of science or really, I suppose, any of my usual logic or reasonableness when I give opinions about ships. This opinion is about playing the Alaska based purely on a fun factor, and I don't think I was alone in feeling like this ship's performance was, prior to this buff, a little mediocre. So I'm glad to see it in the state it is in now, even though it was frankly quite shocking to me. Like I said, this was my first game in the Alaska after the buff, and I really wasn't expecting a whole lot. I was expecting the usual kind of mediocre, somewhat depressing Alaska experience that I was used to, and instead I got this, where pretty casually we've done 121,000 damage so far in this game, and in fact the only thing that is preventing us from having a crap ton more damage is the fact that we just whiffed that shot there on the Wichita, and I think earlier and possibly later in this game we're going to whiff a couple other shots. My aim just wasn't necessarily on point for this one. But the Alaska is quite powerful, and here in this game you really see it fulfilling the role of, honestly, a battleship, except it's doing it more efficiently. And that is taking up a centralized position on this map, using the island cover as concealment, and firing at the broadsides of the enemy ships as they push out to either flank on this map. That's what we spent the beginning part of this game doing, and now that we've whittled down the enemy and taken out their destroyer, now we're comfortable enough to move in and chase these guys as they sail for the Charlie Cap. Here is another nice juicy hit against the broadside of the Amagi. No citadels, but certainly he's going to be feeling that one. And now we're moving closer to the island directly in front of us, but here is where our huge mistake comes in. So we look to the left there briefly, and we see the icon of a battleship with a star next to it, which means it's a legendary battleship, and that can only mean one of three things as of right now: the Yamato, the GK, or the Conqueror. And he's right there, right past this island directly to our left. But what are we doing? Well, we're aiming at the Massachusetts. We see that he's broadside, and we are hell-bent on getting another citadel. Of course, we don't get a citadel there. We do get a lot of damage and the high caliber metal, but we moved out in front of the island to our left and exposed ourselves to a Yamato. And now there is no escape. We really can't turn around to try to disengage. The island to our right is going to prevent us from turning around, so our only choice is to push in aggressively, and maybe, if we're lucky, we can slip between the gaps between the two islands to our right and get out of the way of this Yamato. Unfortunately, doesn't look like that's going to be possible, so the Yamato is either going to kill us or we are going to have to kill him. Luckily, he's giving us a fair amount of broadside, but these are not big battleship caliber guns. They are very big guns, and some battleships actually have this caliber, but we just aren't quite able to use them to kill that Yamato, and so he takes us down instead. But we do finish the game with 183,000 damage done in a manner that I feel like, you know, it was rather casual. It wasn't all that difficult to do, provided we were able to get a good position and take advantage of enemy broadsides, which we were able to do in this game. So, in conclusion, I really like the way the Alaska is performing these days. It might be overtuned, and overtuned might be a euphemism for overpowered, but frankly, I don't care. I think the ship is a lot more fun to play, and I don't really think there's anything too wrong with having a super accurate super cruiser with good punching power. And if you're disappointed that you can't get the Stalingrad because the price is too prohibitive to you, aka you really can't afford 2 million global XP, well, the Alaska project is still in the Bureau, and you can complete it entirely for free, although doing that is going to cost you quite a bit of time, but not as much time as it would take you to grind to 2 million global XP. So, if you're sad about not being able to get the Stalingrad, or you don't think you can, and you don't have the Alaska, well, consider starting the Bureau project for it, because it is in a very powerful state indeed. Luckily, our death here in this game is not going to prevent us from winning. At least I don't think it does. I don't think my team is going to potato into the enemy and die. I think we've basically got this one pretty much wrapped up, but let me leave you with this as a small lesson. Don't go chasing damage like I did against that Massachusetts. I was absolutely getting greedy for the damage and for the citadels, and as a result, I pushed out in front of a Yamato that I absolutely should have known was there, and that Yamato killed me. Much, much better to keep yourself alive till the end of a game than it is to die chasing damage for really no reason other than you want to see big damage numbers on your screen. Words of wisdom, I hope that people heed them. In any case, I think we can cut to the end now and wrap things up. And as we cut to the results screen here, we see that we did not, in fact, lose the game. We won it, finishing with 183,000 damage, high caliber, and 3,000 base XP, I think in large part due to our work against the enemy destroyer. So that's the end of this video. Let me know what you think about the Alaska in the comments. Is it too powerful, or do you like the state that it's in? Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to give the video a thumbs up before you go. Consider subscribing, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.